celebrating the power of possibility.
I'm Seva, and I believe anything is possible.
Welcome to Anything is Possible. I'm Halloran Hilton Hill, and one of the great things this season is you get to see me have conversations with my friends. And this is one of my dear friends. He goes by the name of Seva.
Yes.
But when I first met you, it was David Ball. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
What's Seva?
It is a word from Sanskrit that means selfless service. And I bought it on eBay, it was cheap. But no, it was given to me by one of my teachers. And it's considered to be what your destiny is. And you know, Mom called me David. That means beloved in Hebrew. And that's a great thing, but to me it's kind of like a static position. I'm beloved. Well, what kid is not, for the most part? So Seva was meant to give me a thought about what I needed to do and where I needed to go. You know, my destiny, not my fate. To remind me to always be in selfless service to others.
Did something happen where you decided that was your destiny and that needed to be your name as well? Was there a moment? Was there a catalyst?
I think there was. I think there were several things that had happened. And yeah, I became kind of a seeker. I wanted to find out more. I was raised a Southern Baptist in Jefferson City. Parents taught at Carson Newman. So I had this great, bedrock to come from. But I was, in college, I couldn't find a church I really liked very much. And I went and tried to find something else that would speak to my heart. And so there's some Americans that are Sikhs, which is from India. And I really loved their philosophy of Guru Nanak, because Nanak taught that, look, hey, we're all equal, we all sit together. It's an extraordinary story that's, from the 1400s. But it brought me forward to God again. It brought me forward to seeing how that was part of my life, because I had moved away from the church. And, in my heart, not necessarily like a physical church, but in my heart. And my teacher in college hanged himself in my junior year. And he was my surrogate father at the time. He was my piano teacher. He was my composition teacher. I had no inkling that this was going on. I had no idea he had a happy life. Brilliant pianist. And it was such a huge sideways push, on me, that it took a while to recover. And this was in 1978. And at that time, colleges didn't have trauma teams, they didn't have psychiatrists, they didn't have all this stuff that we have now where people show up and help and all of this. There was nothing. So this was at Belmont. And I loved the school, but at that particular time, we just didn't have the kind of recognition of trauma that we do now. And so I felt very alone. And I moved to the Philippines and married a friend of mine as a marriage of convenience so that we could live on a military base and I could have a studio on the beach. A studio on the beach? Are you kidding? It's like, great, I'll quit college for that. I couldn't continue. I just couldn't continue. So in that process of searching, I found this group of people, and they had a very devout aspect of putting God in your life every moment, every breath, everything you do. Keep God in your mind. That'll help you make the right choice. Like right action, right thought, right. So he said, one of the things was that you could get a spiritual name from this character. And I asked him, so what's mine? And to tell you the truth, he scared me to death. And I've never admitted this, so I'll do it now. But he said, he says, Seva. And someone said, oh, it's service. And he goes, yeah, master teacher. And I said, well, I know you are. And he goes, not me, you. And I didn't tell anybody for 20 years.
That you had been called to be a master teacher.
Yes.
Let's stop right here and take a break because I've never heard this part of your story. Now we're turning the corner and I think we're about to make some waves. You're watching Anything is Possible.
Possibility powered by Pilot Flying J, Covenant Health, Home Federal, and the Knoxville News Sentinel. Coming up,
They're going to cut me open, break my sternum, open me up like a clam, have me distended back, stop my heart for 2.5 hours.
We were talking about how you got the name.
Yes.
You got a bunch of hats. Hat number one.
Got this name, and everybody says Seva, and I'm like, haven't you ever played Sega video games? It rhymes with Sega, you know, so then some people would call me Sega, but that's all right. I just said, this is what it is for me, and if people want to call me Dave, that's fine. But Seva is something that calls to me. And I started teaching at the University of Tennessee in sound. And let's see, I started in 2001. So you know what happened?
What happened?
9/11. You know, 2 months into my first semester. And I sat down with all these art students, and we were just numb. And I said, I'm not standing at the front of the class anymore. We're all going to sit together and just talk. And why in the world would we do art now? So we talked a lot about art during World War I, which was the war to end all wars. And some of the artists had created Dada, which was almost like just ready-made, as they call it, ready-made. They would just take some physical object and say, and we'd go put it in the museum and say, this is art. I said, you know, they managed to figure out what art was at that time. Why don't we figure out what it is for us now? And what do we need to express? I told him, I said, look, he said, oh, I'm not a musician. I said, but you're an artist. So what do? You get raw materials, you have techniques on how to work them,
Right.
and you produce art. I said, so you're going to do the same with sound.
So now you're stepping into this calling that came to you as you were pursuing your faith.
Yes.
You got stamped as Seva, the aspirational name.
Yes.
Master teacher.
Yes.
And so that happens. Now you've had multiple careers. So radio.
Yeah, you know,
You got a hat
there's
for
so
that?
many parallel stories on this. I have a hat for that, but I want to tell just this little bit. I started in Jefferson City at a 500-watt AM station where nobody over 18 worked because the guy would fire everybody before they got out of high school so they wouldn't depend on the job. And I was indignant. I was like, you fired me? What is that? So I went up to Morristown, got a job there, and there was a bunch of old cats there that taught me everything about radio. As a matter of fact, I was on the way into work that first day, and the guy before me said, well, coming in tonight, a new DJ, Dave McKay. I was like, oh, I thought I got the job. Who is this McKay guy? Went in, and Leon said, man, I forgot your name. I'm so sorry. I just thought of this guy I worked with in California. So I was Dave McKay for a while. And, you know, then I went to college in the Philippines. When I came back, I started working at WKDF. And that was the #1 station in Nashville at the time. It was rock and roll. And through some crazy accident of mine on the air, the listener called in and said, hey, you just said it was 2:15 and a Thursday, but it's, you know, it's 4:45 and this is Friday. And I was like, oh man, Space Cadet. He said, no, you're not the cadet, you're the damn commander. I said, Commander Dave. And that was where the name started. Eventually came back and started working at WIMZ. And at that point, the local Navy recruiting office said, can you help us? And I said, sure. I said, I can help you out. And they said, we want you to just do some promos and stuff for us as Commander Dave. I said, okay. And they made me an honorary commander in the United States Navy.
So you have this career going in radio,
Yes.
and you're a brand, Commander Dave.
Yes.
You're a name, but you also are one of the most technologically curious people that I've ever met in my life. In fact, you know this amongst your friends. Don't ask Seva anything technical because he will explain to you more than you could ever know. And the reason you're laughing is because you know it's the truth.
Oh my God.
You actually do know how the watch was built, right?
I can hear my dad saying, son, when someone asks you what time it is, do not tell them how to build a watch.
But you're a master teacher, so.
I didn't know.
My guest is Seva, and he's got a hat to prove it. So the other day, I'm working with my software, working on some music, and I go to, render it into an MP3, and I wanted to make it louder, and I'm using the L1 maximizer, and I'm thinking, my friend Seva was part of the company that built this technology, this plug-in technology, for an industry that wasn't even there.
It was a spin-off of technology out of Oak Ridge, using ultrasonics to detect non-metallic weapons. They had to have special filters. Well, those filters were linear phase filters. And the only other place you could use them was in mastering. They have a very long delay time. So you can't use them for live, you can't use them for mixing or recording, but mastering, okay. And we had built this device, and this is 1989, 1990. So people were like, wow, you guys are way ahead of the curve. And we had a touchscreen. It was the first audio piece that I know of to have a touchscreen. So we had a box, touchscreen, and all this stuff, and it had little plug-in windows, which I drew up. I didn't invent it, but I did come up with the first graphic user interfaces for compressors and EQs and stuff that were on this touchscreen. And they decided to target radio, and I said, man, radio is very demanding. We ought to just go for studios. They didn't do it, and the company failed. But with me there, at this place, Audio Animation, were two Israelis. And as soon as the company failed, one of them calls me and says, hey, Dave, it's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. I said, how's it going to be fine? I just bought a house. And what eventually happened was we made the first plug-in, audio plug-in, as a third-party company. And sure enough, Waves was born.
Waves is easily the industry standard when it comes to plug-ins.
Yeah.
We've been in this business for a long time. And
Yeah.
you had no idea that you were going to literally stumble or be led into that.
I didn't know. But I'll tell you one thing. If I'm led to do something, I know I'm supposed to be there, and I will apply my absolute full self if I can possibly do so. There was a point where I couldn't do that, and I want to tell you about that because that was a big deal in my life, and it just happened 2 years ago. Happened 14 months ago.
What happened?
Well, over time, I didn't know it, but I was building up a blockage in my coronary arteries.
So, radio, master teacher, technology, studio owner, mastering engineer, working with everybody from Dolly Parton to...
Dolly Parton.
Right, and everything in between.
Right.
And I'm around you during all of these years. I'm coming to your house on New Year's and having black-eyed peas as part of your annual celebration.
And cornbread.
And one thing that I'm noticing is you are not sleeping.
Right.
You were all in. We've done so many sessions together. Seva is the voice of Anything Is Possible as well, if you recognize the voice.
And now, anything is possible. I'm sitting here.
But I know you were going through hell as you were trying to make heaven for everybody else.
I was a little too selfless. I think that the great teachers told us to love ourselves and take care of ourselves. And a lot of people feel that that is selfish. I think that's wrong. I don't think that's the case. I think honestly that that's how it works.
Hey, did you see what you just did just then? You just talked about taking care of yourself and about loving yourself, and you just took off the hat. And isn't that a great metaphor for what you have to do if you're going to take care of yourself?
It is.
Like we as human beings,
Yes.
we always live under a hat.
Yeah.
I am what I do, and if I'm not doing anything, I'm not anything.
Right.
Who are you without the hat?
Right.
And you just took off the hat.
Right. And I did that, and I felt that.
In your instance, though, you had the hat knocked off of you.
I did. Yeah. I was all in and was working as much as I possibly could, and there was a slow change happening in my ability to focus and my ability to feel rested. And at one point, I found out I had sleep apnea. Okay, so I wear the mask. I pretend I'm on the space station every night. It's like, oh, put on my mask, all right. But I also have narcolepsy, which was unusual. It's actually an immune deficiency disease or an immunocompromised disease. So is psoriatic arthritis, and that had manifested. So all these things were manifesting in my body. You know, the psoriatic arthritis, the psoriasis, the narcolepsy, the sleep apnea, and then this loss of concentration and loss of energy. And in November of 19, I decided I'd had enough. I didn't know what was wrong. I was so frustrated. I hated myself and was trying to help everybody else and so forth. But then I was not consistent. I would cry out for help and ask people, look, I need help. And I didn't know, what was going on. It was very confusing for me. I finally thought, well, you're going to the doctor. And I went to the doctor and looked at EKG and said, you're going to a cardiologist. Within 5 days, I had a catheterization to look into the heart. The blockage was too severe, couldn't put any stents in. And my cardiologist, who also has a minor in piano performance, which I thought was just like an added touch that God said, yeah, she plays piano too. She was there with this anguished face, said, I'm sorry, I couldn't help you. The stents, I can't put in stents. Blockages are in the wrong place. I can't get to it. You're going to have open heart surgery. I was still slightly dazed, and I said, oh, okay. But as that sank in, I was confronted with the existentialist issues. And I could feel the pull of the abyss. I could feel the complete despair, no hope. I could feel, the fear of what would happen to my boys, with my family, my people. And I thought, well, if I die, I think I'm happy. I'll be going on and finding out what lies beyond. And my family, they will be okay. I trust that everything will be okay. So I didn't have any fear, and I decided it was an adventure. I decided this is going to be one Disney e-ticket squared. This is going to be incredible. They're going to cut me open, break my sternum, open me up like a clam, have me distended back, stop my heart for 2.5 hours. And I thought, I wonder what kind of music the surgeon likes.
Only you would think that.
Well, and the moment I woke up, I knew things were better.
You also had something with your tongue, right?
I did. Oh, this was in June. I had this, in July, I noticed this sore on my tongue. So I went to my ENT, and he said, that's probably cancer. But this time, I didn't jump to fear. I didn't jump to anything. I was like, oh, cancer. And I said, okay, this is going to be an adventure. I'm going to find out what's going to happen. And everything went rather perfectly until my son said, oh my gosh, they didn't take out enough. He can still talk.
So let me land here. A you were to sum this up, because your life is a story of possibility and adventure.
Yes.
What's the algorithm of possibility?
I think that C.S. Lewis defined it really well in his Screw Tape Letters book. And it was a book about a senior devil writing to a junior devil, giving him advice on how to mess humans up. My dear Screw Tape, please try to prevent the humans from praying at all costs. If they do, then tell them it's not going to work, it's not going to work. If it comes true, tell them prayer wasn't necessary anyway, it would have happened anyway. Hey. And if it doesn't work, say, see, prayer doesn't work. And this whole book, the Screw Tape Letters, is about these ideas of how we waste our possibilities. And most people do so by thinking about the past in the present moment. So they're burning their future right here in the present moment by just spending time about the past.
So I guess the best way we could sum it all up is that all possibility rests in God.
In God, in the moment.
In
now,
the moment. Be right here.
Right here, right now. You know, you
Right
should say,
now.
be here now.
Yeah.
And I think it's in one more part. That's important for you to be you, because nobody else can do that. Who you really are. So I say, be you here now.
Seva, thank you for being our master teacher today. And it was great having you on Anything is Possible.